All right, everybody, welcome and thank you for joining us for today's History at High Noon, Highland Brewing Company, as part of the museum celebration of Women's History Month. My name is Stacy and I handle adult education here at the museum. If you enjoyed today's program, we invite you to head over to the museum's website, ncmuseumofhistory.org, where you can learn more about our upcoming programs, exhibits, and digital resources. This is also where you can find more information about shopping in our wonderful museum shop and joining our North Carolina Museum of History Associates. Our associates and foundation provide crucial funding and support to the museum, in addition to many other things, helps make programs like today's program possible. We would also like to thank those of you who kindly donated funds towards today's program. We do our best to keep our programming free to attend, but there are costs associated with keeping our series going, and we just continue to be so appreciative of your generous support of the museum. So it's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Leah Wong Ashburn, President, CEO, and second generation family owner of Highland Brewing Company in Asheville, North Carolina. Leah left a successful career in the printing industry to come join the family business in 2011 and took over from her father as brewery president and CEO in 2015. Under her leadership, the brewery underwent a widely acclaimed rebranding and revitalization that led to it being named the South's Best Brewery by Southern Living in 2018. That same year, Ashburn was named as a James Beard Awards semifinalist in the category of wine, beer, or spirits professional. Highland Brewing has always had deep ties to the Asheville community, and Ashburn is a recognized community leader serving on many local boards and committees. In 2019, the Asheville Area Chamber of Commerce named her the Woman Executive of the Year. In February 2021, Ashburn's leadership was also recognized for a fourth consecutive year in Business North Carolina Magazine's Power 100, the top 100 most influential business leaders. Outside of her work as a brewery owner and local business leader, Ashburn is an avid athlete with a real love for volleyball and hiking. She loves to dance and was the 2019 champion of Asheville Dancing with the Local Stars. Today, Leah serves as president and CEO, living in Asheville with her husband, Brock, with visits from her two terrific stepdaughters. The very epitome of a North Carolina woman making history. Leah, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Stacy. It's really exciting to talk to you and to relay what has happened in Highlands history and a bit about my family, which is so much a part of our company and being in Asheville and in North Carolina, we're really proud of. So it's important to us. I can just go ahead and start talking about the topics that you and I had kind of spoken about. And that starts with a little bit of history. So Highland is not the first brewery in North Carolina. We're actually 12th or 13th, but we are the largest native North Carolina brewer. And we are Asheville's first legal brewery since Prohibition, because we all know in the western side of the state, especially, that there's a lot of creative alcohol makings as part of our history. So we're the first legal brewery. So we've had a great time doing this, and it was started by my father, Oscar Wong. So in 1994, he leased a basement space in downtown Asheville. Now, 1994 in downtown Asheville was not today's downtown Asheville. It was pretty sleepy. There were a few businesses downtown, but not a whole lot. It was probably boarded up equally or more than it was activated. And but Dad came from Charlotte after having sold his engineering business and came up with this idea for a brewery. He was introduced to an award-winning brewer through a mutual friend. They got along great. This guy obviously had talent. He had brewed award-winning beers at Dilworth Brewing Company in Charlotte. If anyone is from the area and remembers, I used to go there because I was living in Charlotte at the time. And Dad said to the brewer, I would love to start a company with you, but I'm not interested in Charlotte. If you want to do it in Asheville, I'm in. So he saw this spark in Asheville. There was there's a maker culture here. There's a sense of independence here. People have always come here for restoration and sort of respite celebration, health, all these things kind of come together. And the natural resources are part of that, obviously. So beautiful mountains, mountain water, fresh air. I think he saw some similarities in the sort of quality of life that was offered in the North Carolina mountains, similar to the historically beer forward cities in the country. So Portland, Oregon, and Boulder, Colorado. So these places had this culture prior, and he saw those similarities. So that was really where it started. There were also 2 Wine Spectator Awards in little, tiny, sleepy downtown Asheville back at that time when there were very few restaurants. And he thought, why are there these 2 incredible awards in this tiny place where there are really few restaurants to choose from? So again, it was that spark, that kind of latent spirit that was here with appreciation for great food and drink. And so he had an idea to grow on that. Getting through all of the permitting process was completely foreign to city and county officials, and took maybe longer than he expected. So we got the permit in April of '94, and we rolled out our first kegs in December. Took a little while. But that was from a basement. So if any of y'all have been to downtown Asheville, Barley's and Chestnut are right on Biltmore Avenue, right next to each other. We started in the basement of those 2, just on one side, actually. And then our huge expansion was to take up the basements of both of those locations. It was cramped. The ceilings were low. Dad used dairy equipment because there was no small brewing equipment at the time. Craft brewing was not, it was all called micro brews, and it was not a big business. There were probably 550 breweries in the country at that time, and none in this area. So getting equipment was tricky, but they were able to reuse that dairy equipment, which kind of set the stage for how we operate this brewery, kind of bootstrapping things whenever necessary, and having really resourceful people work with us, really smart, resourceful people. So that's been part of our key to success. Dad has also put family values into the brewery. So it's always been natural for him to gather people. And he did that when he had his engineering company, which brought us from New Jersey to Charlotte in 1985. So that transition was part of his office changing. The main office came to Charlotte. So Mom, my sister, and I all came with him. And that change when you're 15 at the time was drastic. I knew nothing about North Carolina. I was kind of afraid of the South and how it was just foreign to me. I was amazed to find that there were lots of people here. And although they talked a little bit funny, I really loved it. I went from public schools in Jersey, if you can imagine, to a private school in Charlotte in 1985. So big culture change, but everyone was so friendly. And that's when I started playing volleyball. So it was a good change for my whole family. And part of back in Dad's company, part of what I was talking about is the values and gathering people. So he used to do that with his engineering company. We would have entire company gatherings. The employees, their spouses, their children all get together for a pig roast that we did in Charlotte, or for a day at the state park in New Jersey. So this extension to a brewery felt really natural, to have a place meant for people to gather, even though that wasn't where we started. So we'll talk about more of that later. We really started as a manufacturing facility, really not made for people to come around at all, but they started coming. And Dad, of course, invited them in and made it a great experience. So we've made a lot of that, and it's part of our future now, part of our identity, which is really exciting. So let's see, we know that we are in very rare space, being founded by an immigrant, a first generation American, and a minority who is Chinese Jamaican. So my father is ethnically Chinese, but was born and raised in Jamaica. And then he went around Asheville peddling Scottish beer. So the whole story has been wildly unusual from the start. And we remain unusual being a second generation led brewery, especially by a female. So all of that is puts us in rare air. We're the 5th largest female led brewery in the country. Yikes. So very, I'm honored to do it. And I'm so incredibly fortunate to have had this path available to me. Comes with a lot of responsibility that I'll also talk about later. We're going to brew about 45,000 barrels of beer this year, which is 90,000 kegs, to put that in a little bit of perspective. We haven't started up tours quite yet, but I think in the next week or two, we will have that team assembling, and in the next month or so, we will have people back for tours. So everyone's invited to come see us and see our brewing tanks and the packaging hall, which is really so impressive, and our whole campus, which has a whole lot of stuff to do. And I'll talk about that later too. We're going to host tens of thousands of people at this brewery this year because we have a 40-acre campus, and it's 5 minutes outside of downtown Asheville. Dad had a vision. He saw this building. It was decrepit. It was in horrible condition. We started renting part of it when we moved out of the basement downtown into this East Asheville location. And that was in 2006. We rented part of the building and eventually then rented more and then bought the property and the building. So right now with these 40 acres and this gigantic building, we've got room to grow and we've got room to play. Both of those things are really critical to the path that I see for us moving forward. We're going to distribute our beer in 4 states. So we stick to the Southeast. We're in North and South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And that's very intentional. I want to sell beer where we matter. And I want to have an identity that makes it easier to connect to people. And in having that small footprint, I love that our beer is fresher. We're more connected to our wholesalers and our customers who can all drive here in a day. We can have fresher beer and the carbon footprint is smaller because it doesn't go very far. So those things are all really exciting to me. So I'd love to, so that's kind of a Highland story, or at least parts of it. And then to give some context in a larger space, beer has become, and I think y'all know this, if you're on this call, you probably know, beer has become a great reason to visit Asheville and Buncombe County. It actually ranks in the top 5 reasons to come to Buncombe County, according to the CVB. It's the 2nd largest manufacturing employer in the Asheville Metro, which is 4 counties. And it makes up about 1/3 of North Carolina Brewery's gross regional products. And about 1/3 of the state's brewing employees are just in these 4 counties. So something has happened here. The employment concentration is 12.5 times the national job concentration. So what that means is that the Chinese guy sampling beer out of his car that was made in a basement, that started an economy and a draw to a city. And it has become an area of specialization in employment for our area and an economic driver. So that is amazing. In North Carolina, let's zoom out one more time. We're approaching about 400 breweries. And in the nation, remember I mentioned that we were about 550 back in 1994, and now we're approaching 9,000 with permits for another 1,000 or 2,000, last I heard from the Brewers Association. So still growing. Neighborhood breweries can pop up anywhere, anytime. My journey to the brewery did not start at the beginning. In 94, I was 2 years out of college and probably didn't have a great job at that time. I got a great job later on. And so in that time of like kind of finding my way, I was thinking about working for the brewery, and I asked Dad if I could work for the brewery, and he promptly turned me down. I didn't know anything. He didn't need me. So that in hindsight was the right decision, 100%. I kind of found my own way, as Dad guided me to do, working into marketing and then sales for our printing company, doing educational sales, which I loved and got really good at it. So I did that for 13 years. I'm not in my heart a salesperson, but I could do that because education was involved and that was a good fit. So the whole time, Dad and I kept talking, and he was kind of interested in what I was doing and how I was handling my own little business. And I was always interested in supporting the brewery. And I would come to the staff gatherings, which of course he had because he loves to gather people. And we talked for a total of 16 years before I came to the brewery. He turned me down when I asked for a job. I turned him down about 8 years later. And then after that, when the stars all aligned in 2011, that's when I came to Highland Brewing Company. I worked in sales for about 1.5 years from Charlotte, covering Eastern and Central North Carolina. And at the time, the brewery felt like a small team, super resourceful people that all had a critical role. Like everybody went to every meeting because it was small. And my job basically was to go out in the market and make friends. There was little strategy at that time. And I give so much credit to our sales team now because they are so strategic by necessity. And they're so much better at doing that job than I was. But that is how I started. In 2015, I became president. We had a dynamic new brewmaster. We put out our first American IPA into the market, followed by new seasonals, several more beers. So our beer portfolio really ramped up and changed. It revolutionized between 2015 and 2017 and has continued to evolve. And that's really exciting for our entire team. It engages more people. It gives us more to talk about, to be excited about. Our customers latch onto it. We have a pilot system that pumps out a couple of beers a week sometimes, but definitely one every week, sometimes 2 or 3. And all of that is so exciting for us. While all that is going on, because we did have the pilot system, in 2017, our brewmaster, who kind of began that revolution, was recruited by Guinness. What do you do? It's a great opportunity for her. We wished her well. We shed a couple of tears and then went about finding our new brewing leader, which we did. So we have done that now more than once, and it is all leading to bigger and better things for us. In 2018, I became CEO, and that's when we changed the brand. So if you aren't familiar, our brand was based on the fact that we are named Highland to honor the Scotch-Irish history in Western North Carolina. So when lots of people settled here that looked more like this. I don't look like that, but this brand suited us perfectly for about 20 years. And so in homage to Scottish history, it was perfect when our beer portfolio was based on Gaelic ale. As time moved on and we made more beers, and especially as that portfolio revolutionized beginning in 2015, that brand didn't reflect our beer, and that was a big problem. So we took a deep dive into our brand and discovered that our energy, our inspiration, our innovation comes from being Asheville's brewing pioneers. So over the period of 9 months or so, we took this deep dive, discovered that pioneering spirit needed to be represented along with the pride of being in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So our new logo became a simplified compass with this artistic H in the middle. And all of our year-round beers have a mountainscape around them to represent where we live. So that's a new can. This is just hitting the market, Lower Falls. I'll talk about that later. So this is where we are. I've had a unique, everybody's experience is unique, but I wanted to talk for a minute about being a woman in the craft beer world. I'm not the first either, and I give so much credit to Odell Brewing, Stouts, New Belgium, Full Sail, and Russian River. Those are just some examples. But it's still a small group of women that have led breweries in the U.S. What is unusual about Highland is that my father always wanted to employ women here. And that paved a path not only for me, but for other women, a lot of women, to work at Highland Brewing Company. Our culture has almost always included them. Started out with 3 guys, but very soon our next hire for sales was a female, and many hires after that. So it's funny, Dad will say that with a group of guys, he can be like a coach and say, scale that wall. And the guys run toward it and they scale the wall. And if he says the same thing to his female staff, they will turn to him and say, which wall? They'll want to know that first. So he feels like the strategy and planning and organization that women bring to Highland has been critical. There's an obvious presence and really incredible roles that women fill at Highland. Over 40% of our staff is female. And we are one person shy of having 50% management positions filled by women. And that is really exciting. It's rare, and it sets the stage for more women to find the brewing industry as a welcoming place where they can thrive. So I'm proud of that. I want to see that continue. My experience has been amazing. I know I'm incredibly fortunate to be in this position, to have these doors opened for me. And that comes from people that were here before me, and hopefully will raise the ceiling for folks who come after me. We have some difficult stuff to talk about. And I think it's important to always do that. Stacey and I touched on the impact of social issues, and I wanted to address it kind of because it's hard, and because I want people to know that it is talked about at Highland and should be talked about more. My leadership role at Highland, even though to me, Highland is something I've seen grow from 3 people to 100, and from a tiny manufacturing but beloved company to a destination and a manufacturing company that is still beloved, that has responsibility attached to it, but it still feels small. It's still a reflection of my family's values. But that even though it feels that close to me, it doesn't mean that we're immune to societal issues. And my staff is not immune either. I told the staff that I guide this ship based on family values, but I cannot control anyone's behavior. I can only control our response to what I know about. Most sexual harassment goes unreported. So I have asked everyone on the staff to help each other feel safe in speaking up. And we also became members of an organization called We Vow, which required training from our staff, easy video training. And I wanted to provide a place where there could be third-party reporting, where anybody can speak up to a person at the brewery or an anonymous type in an email report. Giving people options can give them more chances to speak up. And then I can respond appropriately. So we have talked about that together. And I feel like it takes everyone at Highland to make it what I and each of our employees need, want, and deserve us to be. Next difficult topic, race. It's really timely because in a few hours, I'm driving to Charlotte, and I've been invited to meet with Dr. J, who is the Brewers Association Diversity and Equity Partner and the founder of Crafted for All Consultancy, executive director of her own nonprofit. She and the Brewers Association DEI committee are meeting in Charlotte, and I'm not serving on the committee at this time, but I was invited to join them for 2 hours of social time, meeting each other as breweries across the country. And I love being thought of even. the reason that I was invited is because Dr. J and I made a connection in 2020. I invited her in the middle of the pandemic to come to our brewery and speak to our staff. So she came, and now November 2020 is when things had gotten better, and then they were getting worse again because it was cold. And she came down anyway from Virginia. We didn't take her to dinner because nobody was going to dinner. We didn't do much except have her here and have her in our event center 20 feet from anyone else. The entire audience is masked. But I felt that with all of the discourse and raised awareness across the country on race, that I wanted to do something. So having her here to speak to our staff about race, especially within the brewing industry, was really impactful. I did some personal searches myself, listening to people about how they felt, friends and some new friends, and extending to my company that I would like to have volunteers talk about inclusion and decide on some things that we could do to be better. I learned so much from folks that are younger than I am, from a different generation, and compiling ideas and people from different backgrounds really led to changes and a plan for us. So it's a constantly evolving effort, but we've made changes and we're better. It means that we reviewed and changed language on our website, our job descriptions, our applications, our handbook, our signage, and we can keep doing that. We took a tour, our management team took a tour with a local guide, Dwayne Barton. It's called a hood tour, and you learn about contributions and historical figures in a traditionally Black neighborhood in Asheville and how that neighborhood has changed and not changed. And we had another guest speaker come in and speak to the company. So it's been something I maybe did not forecast, that I would be addressing these kind of things as the leader of a brewery, but it's one of the most rewarding things that I've found I can do. Another aspect of this, so not a difficult conversation, but something that's sort of baked into the mark that I want to make on the company, has to do with health. And we've got this 40-acre property. I love the fact that we have built 3 sand volleyball courts. We have a disc golf course. We have trails, and we're taking out all the invasive species from the property to make these woods healthy for maybe the first time. So we're taking care of the land and taking care of people by giving them activities to do while they gather, celebrate with beer, throw a disc, walk around a little bit. So that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm finding that several of our staff members who have never played volleyball are playing now. They love it. They can't get enough of it. So having a destination that encourages safe and healthy, responsible use of a fun product is right up my alley. And we're able to do that because of my dad's foresight in getting this 40-acre property and our partner support. So that's mostly, let's see, what else do I want to talk about? The future. Have to talk about the future. Future has to do with constant movement. Some of these huge challenges that we've been through in my short time as president have just been mind-boggling. The biggest thing is in our future is that over 28 years, our model has changed from manufacturing to now manufacturing and destination. So we have a lot more we can do there. We have space in this building. We don't have a restaurant, so there's a blank space we could fill. We could have other activities. So if it's volleyball and disc golf and trails now, what else could we do? So we have all kinds of ideas from, I hate to even say it out loud, but who knows what we'll do? Bowling, rock climbing, don't know yet, but we've got all kinds of ideas we're researching, and we have lots of space to play with. Finding the right food partner, back to the restaurant idea, is way more important than finding one soon. So we're taking our time and feeling our way through what that could look like and how we complement the beer and how we offer something that aligns with our brand. It's all a direct reflection of our vision, and that's to be the leader in crafting connections through beer and beyond. So beyond activities, community connections. And I could say a whole lot about our Pints for Purpose program and our 5 areas of giving based on personal values, and the organizations that we support through that. It's fun, it's deep, it's meaningful, and there's beer. And then our future is about quality beer, innovation. Again, we're turning out maybe 100 beers from the pilot room every year. We're testing out a non-alcoholic beer in the pilot room. We're doing meaningful collaborations, not several, just the ones that really matter to us, such as, let's see, another show and tell. We partnered with this company, Lucky Envelope in Seattle, Washington. They are also Chinese owned. And so on Chinese New Year, we celebrate with them by collaborating on a beer and doing a celebration in the tap room that is really awesome. And they've flown out here and we've flown out there. And it's now a cultural thing that we can share with all of our guests. So adding that has been really important. Our future is also about business. So being smart, being nimble, being creatively beneficial, being a good employer. It's about people, treating them with respect, having a great place to work, giving them a path here whenever possible. And it's about place. So taking care of our land here, being a good neighbor, being something that Asheville is proud of, being a great example of a brewer in the brewing industry. And one of the things right now that we're doing is we hired a land management specialist, speaking of place, and he's been in charge of building our trails and getting rid of the invasive species. So it's that's never been done here. So providing that care and beautifying this place and adding value to it over time to protect native species and give people the experience that they really come to Asheville for. That's what we want to do here, provide a great destination. So that's what I kind of had prepared to share. And I think there are some questions in the chat. So Stacey, I'll take your lead about what to do next, and happy to answer anything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Leah. So our adult programs intern, Savannah, who's on the call, she is going to ask our attendees questions to you.
I can't hear you.
Oh, Savannah, yeah, we can't hear you. Shoot. Nope, still can't hear. Okay. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, now we can hear you.
So sorry. So somebody from Virginia is specifically asking if you have any plans to expand to other states, including Virginia.
That's a great question. So the drawn out answer is we used to be in Virginia, and we used to be in 9 states, as a matter of fact, and now we're in 4. I have found that the most meaningful path for Highland is to be in this area where we matter the most, and to have, there are hometown breweries, hometown hero breweries in so many places now, and they should be able to thrive. We're thriving being in these 4 states, and that just feels really great to us, having this deep connection to the Southern Appalachians, why we're named Highland, where we sell, all of that weaves in together really well. So no plans to go into Virginia. We actually were in the southwestern portion recently, really recently, and in the entire state years ago. But we're making more beer now in the 4 states we're in. So that feels like the right path for us.
So you probably get asked this a lot, but do you have a favorite kind of beer that Highland Brewing makes?
I don't. Beer to me it's kind of like cheese because there's so many different kinds of beer, and depending on the mood and the weather and the time of day and the occasion, so many things, any beer could be my favorite beer of the moment.
Okay, so we're having a couple of questions about what the brewing community is like in Asheville. So I know it's like a hotspot for breweries. So I was wondering, like, what's that community like?
Yeah, well, there's an association called the Asheville Brewers Alliance, and membership is very high. I don't know exactly how much, but it's a place that gives us a forum for speaking to each other. So if somebody needs a specialty grain or a hop or a piece of equipment or has a question about where to get insurance, it goes on a forum, and people are constantly jumping in to help out. We also jump in to help each other on like physical basis. So if somebody needs to use equipment that we have that they don't have, a lot of folks have come here to do that. And if we don't have something and we need something that New Belgium has, we've been over in their lab. So those kind of things happen a lot. It doesn't, salespeople, they've got a tougher job out in the streets. They're fighting for shelf space and fighting for taps. And that is, like I was saying, it's really strategic now, and it takes a whole lot of effort. So I think the friendships might not extend because you're constantly jockeying for those things. They don't extend as deeply, perhaps, as they do on the production side, when everybody is really pitching in all the time for materials and equipment.
So I'm curious if COVID impacted the company at all over the past 2 years. Did it directly affect it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. In preparation for speaking today, I read through my COVID journal, and it was just when I'm under intense stress, writing is helpful for me. And I remembered in my early notes, we shut down voluntarily on March 16th, but it was later that day that Governor Cooper shut down everything. And yes, we were deeply affected. We had to shut down for a period of time. We voluntarily shut down for a second period of time, and came up very carefully with processes for who comes to work, how you come to work, who stays home, how are we going to keep people employed? That was a great worry for me. And then coming up with, especially hospitality, we knew we couldn't keep everybody employed the whole time. So we kept them as long as possible. We had them do extra cleaning. We had really big investment. The pandemic was really a time for invention and investment for us. That's when we built the sand volleyball courts. We built the barrel room, a small event space. So really, we took down the tap room ceiling sound tiles and cleaned them and painted the ceiling, things we can't do when guests are here. So fortunately, we were in a position to do all that and provide an even better space for people to enjoy when we reopened. But yeah, it deeply affected, came out stronger. And I talked about that as often as I could, that we just, we had to get through this and we would figure it out. So it took a lot of effort on everyone's part. There were a lot of people that were very, very scared, including myself. How do I protect all of my staff? Production was absolute rock stars. They kept coming into work and worked in masks. And there's sometimes in very hot or very cold conditions, we're breathing through a mask, especially if you wear glasses, and they all have to wear safety glasses. Gets fogged up. I mean, they had to endure so much, and really kept us in business. So my hat's off to them.
Somebody is asking, from an educational and marketing background, what would you say is the most important part of getting people excited to learn about and experience a historic North Carolina brewing brand?
What's the best way to get them excited about learning about it? Well, I mean, it's going to depend on what's important to that person. I think that one of the most exciting things is knowing the story of how the company came about. And also, secondly, learning the science of brewing. We have the smartest people working for us. When our head brewer starts talking, or our head cellarman, they lose me in 5 minutes, or 3 if they, less if they want to. Their depth of knowledge, quality department, I could go on, is just incredible. And it's fascinating to learn about how different sugars have different lengths and different proteins, and certain ones are eaten by the yeast and certain ones are trash, and they can just talk for days. It's fascinating. So getting to know the science of brewing, there's a reason that it's a thousands of years old practice. That there's a reason that it was a substitute for food. It was calories. There's a reason that it was safer than water for a time. And that's why people drank beers, because it was safer than water. So incredibly rich history, incredibly rich cultural stories from around the globe about beer. I just love it.
What do you hope people take away after visiting Highland Brewing?
I want them to love our beer and know that we put our hearts into every single beer we make. We don't put out anything we're not proud of. We'll first throw it down the drain without question if we don't love it. And I want them to know that we operate based on values. And so that hopefully will show in the pride that our staff has in serving a beer, in the activities that we have, and in the care we're taking when they visit for the property and for whether they're out in the woods or in the meadow or in the tap room.
Have you faced any big challenges being a female business owner? I know you talked about it a little bit, but I didn't know if there was anything specific.
I have been verbally patted on the head by a few people along the way. And that's not great, but the vast majority of my experience has been wonderful. And that really speaks to the culture of the industry, which is, make no mistake, very imperfect. My experience has been great. And I'm not speaking for everyone at all. But now I feel like I have the responsibility to make it the best I can.
Okay, I think that is most of the questions we've gotten through. Thank you so much for enlightening us on the brewing industry. I had no idea.
Yes, thank you so much, Leah, for taking time to be with us today and sharing your story and letting us be a part of the Highland Brewing family. It's been so special. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely my pleasure. Oh, and did you see that my dad was one of the commenters?
Hello, thank you for being here. It's so exciting. I'm geeking out over here. I can't even tell you.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, he's here. Local connections for trails he has. So yes, working with Greenways and supporting Greenways efforts through a race that we have. There's so much I could talk about. So you all have to just come visit and learn more about Highland Brewing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed it. And we want to invite you to come to our next History at High Noon Subpar Parks, happening on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. In the meantime, stay well. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Be well.